Hi, thank you so much, Heather and Ron, the Alaska Quarterly Review and Anchorage Museum, and to Jerry and Greg. I lived in New York City for about 14 years, and I just recently moved to the suburbs of New York City, not really very far outside of the city, even only about an hour. It's far from being, countryside. We moved here with our two kids in 2016. And after 14 years in the city, I felt perfectly safe every minute that I lived there. Loved it. Never worried for anything. And after arriving in the suburbs, immediately began to feel constant threat of death. And this is sort of where this story came out of. So this story is it's actually a novella, and it's told in fragments. And I think hopefully the content will match the form here. So this is called Like a Bomb Went Off. The neighbor's house explodes. The neighbor's house explodes at 5:05 p.m. Harriet is behind the family station wagon, vacuuming a summer's sand out of the trunk. There is an incredible noise, like something collapsing to the ground. She looks up to see a white cloud rising behind the fence. Warm air rushes by as bathwater. There is no fireball. It was like a bomb went off, she'll soon say, for the first time, even though it is not like that at all. Pre-foreclosure. Harriet and Vish moved to Westchester from Brooklyn with Clara and baby Theo 2 years before the explosion. The only hesitation is the neighbor's dilapidated house. Vish jokes it is a meth lab, but the realtor assures them that it is just neglected and in pre-foreclosure. Later, online, Harriet finds no proof of this at all. Vish shrugs. Maybe we're all in pre-foreclosure, if you think about it. They decide to email the older couple they're buying the house from, asking what they know. The 3 sentences Harriet receives back curl in her mind like a poem. Luis has been there 20 years and raised 3 girls. He has a son still in school. Once, when I was doing some work on the roof, he came over to help hold the ladder. A broom. 10 seconds after the explosion, Harriet is at the top of her driveway. Cars have stopped in the street, which is bathed in shattered glass, the twisted frame of a screen door, and part of a fence. Harriet takes out her phone and dials 911. As she does, an orange sedan begins honking furiously. The sound startles her, a brighter, louder interruption than the explosion had been. A man gets out of the car, face red, waving his hands wildly, and screams, "Get a broom!" Harriet stares at him, utterly blank. What? Come on, lady, get a fucking broom! She just stands there, unable to process this command. The man screams again, exasperated. With both hands, he pantomimes pushing a broom in the direction of the broken glass like she's stupid or something. 911, what's your emergency? But Harriet still can't speak. This man is so angry, so ridiculous that she simply cannot. The fuck is wrong with you? Flecks of actual spit fly from his mouth. Maybe Harriet considers he doesn't understand what has just happened. This house just blew up, she explains, voice unnaturally high. What she means to say is that this is not a problem that a broom will solve. 911, what's your emergency? Hi, I'm sorry, my neighbor's house just blew up. It was like a bomb went off. Fucking get a broom, the man howls one last time. And then, deciding she's useless, he begins to kick at the broken glass and twisted metal with his foot, pushing it with jerking swipes. Harriet turns and looks at the fence, which has been knocked flat over. Through the waist-high grass, she sees nothing, no house, just a heap of splintered wood and cotton candy insulation. Ma'am, did you say your neighbor's house blew up, ma'am? Yes, I'm here. Yes, it blew up. It's completely gone. There's a heavy slamming of the car door as the man, having decided he's done enough, revs the engine and peels through loudly as if to make his final point. Horrendous, the crunching under his tires, but he gets by. How dare this house blow up when he was trying to drive down the road? How dare he be delayed? 30 seconds now at most? Stuck out there with some lady who can't even get a broom. Faulkner. Not long after Harriet and Vish officially move in, Luis comes smiling over to that same fence during a moment of mutually occurring yard work and welcomes them to town. He and Vish shake hands and chat about baseball. Luis apologizes for the starry state of his yard and mentions his wife in a hospital somewhere. He confesses he just can't keep up with it all on his own. Vish is deeply moved by this. He's sold. Luis is a good man trying to provide trying to lead a simple life out here in a world that no longer stands for all it used to. He reads a lot of Faulkner, Vish does, and collects Bob Dylan bootlegs. Harriet remembers she used to like this about him. Vish tells Luis that he works in construction, which is only half true. Vish works in HR at a company that does construction. He used to tell people he was a poet stuck in a desk job, but that won't fly here the way it did back in Brooklyn, and Vish has figured that out already. Banco. By the time of the explosion, it has been months since Harriet has seen Luis around. Since the start of summer, there has been no sign of him or his son, only a strange man, a renter, or possibly a squatter, speaking only Spanish and disturbing everyone else on their street by sitting out by the road in a folding chair and enticing passing trucks to honk their horns. Harriet thinks it's funny. In the local moms group on Facebook, there's a whole horrified thread about it. But one day, the renter leaves a pink stuffed bear by the fence for Theo. Harriet takes it straight to the trash. The renter eventually comes to the fence to wave guileless hellos to Harriet. When she asks about Luis, the man responds with an onrush of Spanish she cannot follow, and then he says the word banco, gripping both hands around his own windpipe, and this she understands well enough. The pre had become post, all in good time. An attractive nuisance. That first year, whenever friends and family come up to visit the new house, they inevitably comment on the neighbor's place. There's much speculation about meth being cooked in there, much talk of it dragging down Harriet's property value, much examining of the backyard, which is strewn with old junk, a rusty swing set, an upside-down riding mower, an aluminum shed with a collapsed roof. In the summer, the grass grows wild all around it, going up to Luis's armpits. Then he collects a few men to spend an afternoon mowing it all back down again. Harriet suspects there is ragweed in all that wild grass and that it is causing her allergy attacks, but what can you do? There are things she knows that you can do. Harriet's father, during one visit, tells her to call the town and report the overgrowth, to file a complaint about the collapsed shed being an attractive nuisance and insist it be torn down. That's not a thing, she says. It is too. One day, Clara will go over there and climb around to get tetanus, and look. He points to the several trees that have fallen on the property. One is stuck precariously in the branches of another tree at a 45-degree angle to the ground, just waiting for a strong wind to finish the job. What if that falls the wrong way and goes into your yard? It's leaning the other direction entirely. But her dad just tut-tut-tuts and stares out, watching as if it might come down at any moment. She ignores him. She simply cannot bring herself to imagine that it is any of her business. Vish agrees. People don't understand the choices other people have to make in the grips of poverty, he says, as if he knows. But whatever, she basically agrees with him. Not their house, not their problem. Since this was all trees. Only now, suddenly, there is no house, just a dust cloud lingering, just the memory of the warm air and the tremor that moved under Harriet's feet. The other neighbors come outside from all the way down the road. It isn't long after the cars begin moving again that Harriet becomes aware of an older black man standing across the street. She's never seen him before. He doesn't seem like he gets out of the house very often. But seeing as they're both standing there, staring at the same thing, she crosses between the rubberneckers and waves. He introduces himself as Peter. That used to be a nice house, Peter says, turning to face the debris. A Polish couple built it when I was a boy. They lived there 40 years before Luis bought it from them. You've been here a long time then, she asks Peter. Since this was all trees. He waves towards the much nicer development behind them. I hadn't realized that was so new. Oh yes, only maybe 20 years now. That doesn't seem very new at all to Harriet, but she reasons if they stay in this house until Theo is grown, it will be about as long. Their own house by then will be 100 years old, if it makes it that long. Houses, she is coming to understand, are not permanent things. What do you think happened? She asked Peter, pointing to the wreckage. Lazy son of a bitch let it all go, didn't he? Harriet realizes he's still looking at all this with a much wider lens than she is. I meant just now. Why do you think it blew up? Fire trucks are coming now, siren sounds moving towards them louder every second. More and more onlookers are arriving, clustering to their left and right. Peter grumbles. I heard someone over there this morning. I bet that asshole just turned on the gas and walked away. Nobody would do that, Harriet wants to say. Luis certainly wouldn't, not when he knew that she and her family, her small kids, were right there next door. There's a crowd now watching the firemen put on their boots, and unroll long hoses, though there's no fire to put out, so they remain flat and limp. Meth lab, someone nearby speculates. That's why there was no fire. Since when is everyone such an expert on meth labs? There's a TV show, she knows, Vish likes it, about some ordinary suburban dad who secretly becomes a drug kingpin. The other day, that storm hit, I saw the house get hit by lightning, screwed up the wiring inside. They're all talking to Peter now, whom they seem to know. Harriet doesn't know any of these people at all. She feels suddenly like some random bystander. That's my house, right next to it, she explains to someone. I was outside when it happened. It was like a bomb went off. Voicemail. Harriet realizes that the fire trucks are going to block her driveway if she doesn't hurry. She rushes back to the station wagon, still parked behind the house, trunk still open, the engine running to power the portable vacuum cleaner still going inside. She yanks the cord out, closes the trunk, and guns it out of her driveway just before the ladder truck gets in the way. As she heads to gather Theo from daycare, she leaves Vish a voicemail. Hey, hon, it's me. I just need to tell you, so you don't worry if you hear from someone else, that the neighbor's house just exploded, and I'm fine. And I haven't seen anyone over there in a month, maybe. But anyway, I'm fine, and our house is fine. But the other house blew up. It was like a bomb went off. I was standing right outside when it happened. I'm getting the kids now, and we'll meet you at the train station. We'll grab some pizza. Give me a call when you can. Train station. An hour after the neighbor's house explodes, Harriet sits at the little pizza place across from the train station, preventing Theo and Clara from doing too much damage as they excitedly hop around. There are news helicopters in the sky now, hovering over by where she knows her house is. It was like a bomb went off, she has now told Theo's teacher, as well as the lady who runs Clara's after-school program. They looked at her like she was making it all up. Houses did not just blow up. But now, Harriet hopes they'll see. It'll be on the news tonight, local at least. She's looking through the window, watching trains roll in from the city. Vish is coming. He texts her to check that she's okay. He says he didn't get her voicemail. The neighbors have all been texting him. He was incredibly worried. She texts back, I left you a voicemail. Why didn't you call? He responds, I was in a meeting. Next time, send a text. Oh, okay. Next time the neighbor's house blows up, I'll do that, she thinks. I was in the car. He writes, I'm glad you're okay. Why don't the neighbors text her? But she knows. Vish is the friendly one who meets people at the park and says, let me get your number so the kids can get together. Harriet gets the sense from the other mothers that this is not how it is supposed to work. Vish should not be asking them for their numbers, should not be setting up play dates. This is her job. Their husbands, Harriet suspects, won't love seeing Vish's number in their phones. What's your wife's name again? They're always asking him. And Harriet doesn't love the thought of all their numbers in Vish's phone. Mary's mom, who then just becomes Cheryl. Then Benny's mom, who just becomes Katie. It is a problem. Harriet knows this. But she never thinks to ask when she sees people at the farmer's market on Saturday mornings. Back in the city, it was always just, hey, are you be around tomorrow? And people would say, yeah, let's get something on the calendar. And that was all that needed to be said. It was enough that everyone wanted something on the calendar. Here, they actually whip out their phones and start rambling about all the activities their children are booked in every day and how stressful it is, and ask rhetorically when they are supposed to get their nails done. They always seem to be done, Harriet notes. They want you to ask them to go get manicures, Vish explained once. I hate getting my nails done, she'd said, studying her hands. Painted up and polished, they never looked like they belonged to her. Who wanted to walk around with someone else's hands all day? Just then, someone comes over from the counter at the pizza place. It's a woman Harriet half knows, Clara's friend from school's mother. Maybe her name is Joan? Don't you live near that house that blew up? I just texted Vish. Harriet shakes her head and widens her eyes. Is this how she's supposed to look? This is how they look all the time. Oh my God. That's our neighbors. I was standing right outside. It was like a bomb went off. Before she can say more, Vish comes up in a rush. Joan or whoever looks relieved to see him. She grabs his shoulder, pats at it. She was just telling me what happened, she says, as the kids, oblivious to all of it, leap up and try to tackle their father to the table. What's your name again, by the way? Living here. The look these women have, a little afraid always. Harriet is meant to be afraid of a lot of things, considering it is one of the more affluent suburbs in the state and the whole nation. The local dads here are not secretly meth kingpins. The crime rate is essentially a negative number, and the people are also nice, though they don't drive nicely. And they often yell loudly into their phones, and sometimes while they're driving. But she's not afraid of these people. who she assumes all have better things to do than worry about her. Though some other things do vaguely alarm her. Deer ticks, which she combs around for each day after the kids get inside. And there are signs up all over about what to do if you encounter a coyote. And one time she saw one in the thin morning light the size of her car. And then every year there are quite a few sightings of a large bear moving through the area. And this time he was affectionately named Mr. Quakey after the numerous appearances he'd made along Quaker Road. And earthquakes? Apparently. Someone just casually mentioned this to her at the grocery store. Isn't it incredible they would put a nuclear power plant so close to a fault line? I'm sorry, a what? Next to a what? Oh, yes. Well, that's why she got a form from school in the first week asking, is it okay to give KI pills to Theo in the event of an emergency? What for? She asked. What's that? KI, potassium iodide, the woman in the toddler room explained. For if there's a meltdown over there. She waved vaguely towards the woods. Oh, Harriet had said. Well, do the pills do anything? I don't know, the woman answered. I guess. Sure, okay, Harriet had sighed. Load him up. All right, this is the last one. News 12. The road is closed to traffic by the time they get back to the house. Initially, the policeman in his neon vest refuses to let them through, but Vish politely points out they have 2 children in the back, and the officer waves them past. He tells them they'll need to walk along the edge of the road because there are emergency vehicles everywhere. This house exploded and sent live wires right in the street. It did? Soon enough, they see for themselves a mess of cables on the road. Harriet, now carrying a shoeless Theo in her arms, realizes she must have run right past them. They'd been there, black electric death snakes, inches from her feet as she'd been calling 911, and as the man had been yelling about brooms. No chance to absorb this before a reporter with a News 12 microphone approaches and asks her if she knows anything about what happened. I was standing outside when the house blew up, she said. It was like a bomb went off. She's aware of having said this phrase a dozen times by now, and that it is just as inaccurate now as it was at first, but she can't think of anything else to say. Do you mind if we come into your yard and get the damage from the back? Harriet leads them down the driveway. Vish and Clara follow, still holding shoeless Theo. Harriet pauses to point to where her car had been and where she'd been standing. There was this warm breeze, she explains. I didn't see a fireball or anything. There's glass, the reporter comments. Where? Here, everywhere. They look down together. Harriet, Theo, the reporter, and a large, expensive-looking camera. There is indeed broken glass all over the driveway, some just inches from where she'd been standing when she'd felt the warm breeze. Harriet reaches down and picks up a jagged piece the size of her head. She stares at it for a moment, studying it as if it has secret writing on it somewhere. Holy shit, Vish says, moving Clara away. Honey, you could have been killed. Harriet hums. It certainly seems that way, though it does not really register. If you want to go in the backyard, she tells the reporter, you can see better. I'll stop there and read the rest in the upcoming issue of the last quarterly review.